and new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, Andrew Pierce here. Join me every Friday lunchtime for a proper no-nonsense debrief of the week's events. With special guests in the studio and the GB News team on the ground, I'll be getting you up to date with news, some intelligent discussion and my own sharp take. The weekend starts here with me every Friday lunchtime on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You with GB News. It's 11 o'clock. In a moment, headliners. But first, let's catch up on the latest news headlines. And tonight it's been confirmed that British aid workers Andrew Bagshaw and Christopher Parry, who'd gone missing in Ukraine, were killed trying to help civilians flee shelling. The Parry family released a statement tonight saying, "It is with great sadness we have to announce that our beloved Chrissy has been killed along with his colleague Andrew Bagshaw while attempting a humanitarian evacuation from Soledar in eastern Ukraine." The pair had been attempting to rescue an elderly woman in an area of intense military action when their car was hit by an artillery shell. They were last seen on January the 6th. Well, today the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has reportedly decided to send Leopard 2 tanks into Ukraine and is allowing other countries like Poland to do the same. Reports suggesting a final decision on whether to allow Poland to send in tanks could be made as early as this week. The Polish Defence Minister says the request comes as the security of the whole of Europe is at stake. And here, the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson urged other countries to follow the UK's lead in providing tanks and the weapons Ukraine needs to help it win the war against Russia. In his nightly video address, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukraine needs decisions on deliveries of modern tanks to strengthen their defence. Well, here, a relative of murder victim Zara Alina says probation officers have blood on their hands after a report found her killer was released from prison just days before carrying out the attack. Jordan McSweeney was given a life sentence last month after he admitted killing the law graduate. He attacked 35-year-old Zara in East London as she walked home after a night out last June. The findings of the report showed McSweeney should have been treated as a high risk of serious harm offender, but he was wrongly categorised by the probation service as medium risk. Zara's aunt, Farah Naz, says more needs to be done to avoid the same thing happening again.
Our streets are not safe. Probation work has to be tight, has to be high quality, because the risks, the stake is high. The stake is lives. Zara's life was taken, and probation have blood on their hands.
Now, tomorrow, the Shadow Levelling Up Secretary is due to give a speech at the Convention of the North, in which she'll say the way the country is governed must change or Britain's future could be at risk. Lisa Nandy is due to set out how Labour would oversee a significant expansion of economic devolution in England. She's going to outline their proposal to unleash the power of all people in all parts of Britain by handing Westminster controls to local communities. Nand is expected to accuse the Tories of having written off areas outside London that once fuelled the UK economy. And finally, Princess Eugenie says she and her husband, Jack Brooksbank, are so excited to be expecting their second child. A photograph released today on Instagram by the Princess shows the couple's first child, August, hugging his pregnant mum's tummy. In a statement, the palace says the royal family is delighted and August is very much looking forward to being a big brother. Those are your latest news stories on TV, online and DAB+ radio. You're with GB News, where now it's time for Headliners.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Welcome to Headliners. Joining me to fight through Wednesday's newspapers tonight are comedy veterans Leo Kearse and Ben Norris, both suffering from PTSD, it says. I have no idea why he would be, presumably from working on the comedy circuit.
It's easy. Work for 20 minutes a night.
Yeah,
it's dead easy. Never had a more relaxing job in my life.
I know. You're not somebody to fake psychological damage, are you, just for a quick buck? Anyway, let's have a quick look at recon of Wednesday's front pages. The Daily Mail we kick off with 2.5 trillion reasons UK must go for growth and why I've applied to go on Love Island for the middle-aged, says somebody. The Telegraph has hammer blow for Putin as Ukraine gets tanks, and a picture of Bill Nighy there, who is our best hope of an Oscar this year. The Guardian has Berlin agrees to send tanks to Ukraine in historic move, and another actress there dominating the front page pictorially. The next up we have is the Times. And economy is failing to bounce back fast enough. There again is Bill Nighy. Then the Daily Express. Be warned. Increase our pension age at your peril. And the Star, finally, is there a Chinese spy in your fridge? Those are the front pages. We will have a little look at them in some depth now. So, Leo, we're going to kick off with the Daily Telegraph, with the hammer blow for Putin, the Bill Nighy. Well, there's some other more slightly strange stories.
We're going to cover Germany's finally decided, after being bullied by all the other countries, finally decided to give tanks to Ukraine. But the stories, we're going to cover that in The Guardian in a bit. The stories we're going to cover on this are the households paying an extra £821 a year more in tax under the current Tory government. I mean, if you voted Conservative, hoping for maybe some fiscal prudence and lower taxes, good luck with that. You're paying more tax than ever, and it's going up across the board. So obviously, income tax, national insurance, that's surged, but also inheritance tax. So bereaved families have paid out £5.3 billion so far this year. I mean, I'm assuming that's the financial year.
Yeah.
So maybe the excess deaths is a deliberate policy.
Well,
maybe they're running the
NHS.
Running the NHS into the ground so they can then reap the rewards from all these houses that have to be sold.
It must have had some impact during COVID, the amount of death, the sudden surge in death toll. They must have lost a lot of inheritance tax by not putting it up in 2020, I would imagine.
yeah, they picked the time wrong. And also they missed the chance to actually, let COVID do its thing.
You say you're paying more tax under the Tories, and yet, ironically, some Tories are trying to pay no tax.
If you're actually in the government, you've got millions of pounds, then the super rich are always going to be okay. They're always going to find ways to avoid paying tax.
Yeah.
But, it's the little guy like me right here who ends up paying, well, probably not the inheritance tax, but, I've got to pay loads of tax.
The people who can't afford an accountant, basically, that's the cut-off point, isn't it? After that, it all becomes largely academic.
Yeah.
I suppose the other big thing, and this isn't exactly tied in, but in a kind of inheritance tax that is effectively what that is the social care thing that precedes inheritance as well now.
Yeah.
You know, and they're fiddling with that as well now. But I don't know whether that's up in the air at the moment. The amount that you'll be expected to pay towards the last years of life.
And there's a lot of rumblings about, you know, a wealth tax and all this kind of thing. But my issue with a wealth tax, where you go in, you know, somebody's super rich, they've got, you know, billions of pounds, so, you know, seize some of that money. Yeah, it sounds like a good idea, but those billionaires tend to be much better at allocating their capital. That's how they became billionaires. Money that goes to the government is essentially just wasted. You might as well, you know, bury it in a hole in the ground. They don't. I mean, you can see how they're running all the public services. They waste it on, you know, equality, diversity, and inclusion.
Well, let's
the
have
Arts
a look.
Council.
There's actually a good example of that. The NHS have bought some robots.
Yes, the NHS has finally decided to try automation to try and clear some of the backlog. And yeah, I mean, other industries have been doing this for about 200 years. We've had, you know, since the invention of the spinning jenny. But yeah, now we're finally going to see some automation.
I'll tell you what, I don't want my backlog cleared by a robot.
Yeah, those sharp fingers.
Yeah.
Well,
all that
I mean,
metal.
it is quite sinister, isn't it? The NHS deploying robots to clear the backlog. I mean, innuendo aside, there is a fairly obvious, straightforward way that a robot might decide to clear the backlog.
Yes.
With a sudden
Skynet.
burst of automated fire.
This one's called the Shipman.
Yeah. What about the chimps with a inbuilt humans have an inbuilt ability to communicate with chimps, apparently.
Yeah.
Did you notice that one, Leo, or have I sprung that on you?
They probably do. Apparently, the chimps, though, you've got to avoid eye contact with them. They're like drunk Geordies.
Yeah.
You've got to avoid eye contact because they'll see that as aggression,
And
and
they'll
they've got
tear your arms
incredible upper body strength, and they will rip your buttocks off and your fingers off. That's hammed and chimp.
How do you communicate with anything whilst avoiding eye contact? It's quite...
If you want to look at, they actually have glasses to look at chimpanzees and gorillas at zoos, where it's you know those fake eyes that you put on,
Yeah.
and it looks like your eyes are pointing this way.
Yeah.
And you're looking through the pupils.
Yeah.
Right.
That's sort of what Germany's doing with its tanks now, I suppose, to some extent, you might argue. No, not us.
Well, do you know, it's weird to say it, isn't it? But isn't it great to see German tanks moving across Europe?
Rolling into...
It's quite nostalgic.
And it's always been that case.
So they're the Leopard 2A6 battle tank. Does that mean a great deal to you, Ben?
Yes,
Are you a
apparently
tank
this is the
aficionado?
tank that never changes its spots, I imagine. I don't know much about tanks. If I'm honest, I don't know much about tanks.
But this is controversial, isn't it? I mean, joking aside, some people have said it is obviously going to have emotional resonance for some people. Not all of it
People are
present.
120 years old. I mean, come on, Germany's a totally different country than it was in 1939.
We're doing it from The Guardian now.
Oh, yes.
Ben, this is your paper. But
Well,
go on.
Yeah, I mean, it's just... Well, it says it's a historic move, and it is a historic move, isn't it?
There has been a lot of reluctance for Germany to get involved. I don't know whether they are any more likely to actually provoke Russian aggression.
Well, I guess importantly, there aren't going to be Germans in the German tanks, are there?
No.
I think that makes the big difference.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. But the Russians have been claiming that this is basically a military operation to weed out neo-Nazi influences in Ukraine, so I suppose they will be able to spin it that way if they want to.
Well, I mean, there are lots of neo-Nazis in Ukraine. It's great to see, you know, left-wing people and woke people really rallying round to support neo-Nazis. It really is. No, I mean, like, you know, I'm using that word appropriately, woke.
Now,
but what's been happening with Russia, their strategy, like the West strategy towards Russia, has been pretty disgusting. We've been teasing out this war to sort of deplete Russia militarily.
Yeah.
And while we do that, we're actually depleting Ukraine. And obviously, Russian men don't deserve to die either. They're living under a dictatorship. So it's kind of disgusting. We haven't just given Ukraine the tools it needs to finish the job decisively. So it's good that Germany's finally given these tanks, but it's a real shame that it took so much cajoling to finally do it. And America also needs to give those the long-range ATACMS, the missiles that they've got a 300-kilometre range.
Right. If you say so. Apparently, the head of Volodymyr Zelensky's presidential administration, I would have thought that was Volodymyr Zelensky, but anyway, the head of his administration immediately hailed the German reports. He said, "This is what is going to become a real punching fist of democracy against the autocracy from the bog." So there's some fairly sturdy...
punching fist of
What
democracy.
else have we got on the front page of The Guardian, Ben?
Well, it says Biden renews calls for assault weapons ban because there seems to be... sort of very, very regular kind of mass shootings. And apparently there's been more than one shooting per day. in the last year.
More than one shooting, mass shooting?
I think sort of mass-ish.
There's certainly more than one shooting. They have like hundreds.
But I think, you know, where a number of people are shot at the same time, I think that's becoming so common that it doesn't even always get on the news.
No, that's certainly been the case
America.
for a while. What about the Times then, Leo? Economy failing to bounce back fast enough. That seems fairly familiar news as well.
Yeah, and also there's the story there, which I think you'd only get in the Times. They're worried about a ski lift strike in France.
Right.
Yeah. They're really going to hit the ordinary person, aren't they, with the ski lift strikes?
So,
what next? The foie gras manufacturers are going to go on strike.
I mean, this is for anyone whose skiing holiday hasn't already been terminated by lack of snow as well. I think it's probably the worst time they could pick to go on a ski lift strike.
Well, Josh, Headliner's co-present panellist, whatever you call it, he went skiing and he wasn't expecting any snow. He booked a hiking holiday. And got there, turns out there's loads of snow. I reckon all this stuff about there being no snow is overblown. Unlike the snow, which is sitting right where it should be. But yeah, so ski lift operators are going to go on strike next month over pension reforms. So, if you want to you're going to have to walk to the top of the hill.
What about the Ferrari, which is going to replace its engine with a set of speakers?
This is so you can hear it coming,
right.
I should imagine.
This is electric supercar, is it?
Yeah, because electric cars make very little noise, so you need to be able to hear them coming.
Yeah.
I'm very much like that.
You need a speaker-enhanced... Here I come. And finally, we have the Daily Star, Ben.
Yes.
Finishing it off with some hard news here.
So it says, is there a Chinese spy in your fridge? And then it says, sneaky Chinese spooks, which, sneaky Chinese spooks is the beginning of a sentence that doesn't sound like it's going to go anywhere good.
I'm glad that's not a limerick. That's all I'm saying.
So they say that there could be microchips in our fridges, with the Chinese keeping an eye on what the average Brit is doing in their fridge. I don't know why they would.
Probably to sow dissent among families
amongst
who are
our
all
cheese.
Denying who's had the last of the cheese.
Right.
Well, yeah, China
settle it once and for all.
China uses a lot of sort of subtle weapons against the West, like TikTok, for example. So it's not actually available in China. You can't get TikTok in China, but over here we download it, and it's tweaked and tuned to just so maximum degeneracy and keep us addicted to our phones.
Thing, to be fair, but this was a major story in the broadsheets yesterday, which has now made it onto the front page of the Star. But we did cover this yesterday, that there is a genuine suspicion that there is a capacity built into a lot of internet-enabled, the Internet of Things, this is, as they call it, where your fridge now can order your milk for you automatically if you set it to do this kind of thing.
Mine can't.
No, your fridge, I imagine, is sort of some 1960s pop art sort of Farrago, is it?
Well,
which has been selected for its aesthetic, the fit.
You're right about the fridge that my wife has, but my fridge in my little flat, less so.
Oh, OK.
We'll talk about that later.
OK, mate. Is that the fridge microwave dog shop? Like a shoe storage facility?
Yeah.
In one? Yeah.
Everything's had to be slightly minimised.
Oh, well, OK, we will come on to that in the break. That's the front page is eviscerated. Join us in a couple of minutes. We'll discuss why it's better to be a woman in Saudi Arabia than it is in the UK. In certain regards, how tough the menopause is for men. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you. Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations. for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online. Across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. I am Simon Evans in the company of Sergeant Curse and Corporal Norris. My rank remains a mystery, obviously. First up, let's go to Wednesday's Daily Mail, Leo. And finally, a story where men aren't to blame.
Yes, so a transgender woman in Scotland has been found guilty of 2 rapes, raping women with her penis. So women need to do better. I remember when it was men doing this kind of thing, but now it's women. So this woman...
To be clear, was she, to adopt...
Be careful now, you transphobic bigot.
Was she a woman when she'd done the rapes?
No, she was identifying as a man then, but now she identifies as a woman. Okay. So Isla Bryson, she actually transitioned after she got caught and charged. So she transitioned after her first court appearance, which took place the month after committing the second rape. Now she has been found guilty.
They're all going to be doing that now, aren't they? Just transitioning.
Well, this is the thing. They're warning. So Scotland's brought through this gender recognition reform bill, whatever it's called, and they voted down. The SNP voted down amendments that would stop people like this. Males, biological males like this, abusing the system, transitioning and then getting sent to a women's prison.
But she's not going to be just wandering the corridors.
There's obvious. Well, there's obvious. No, I mean, like, what you think they're going to be? You think there's no issue with them being sent to a women's prison? I mean,
just checking.
Regardless of whether they have to wear a tag or whatever.
She's in solitary confinement, I think. I she. I mean, I share your irritation with the whole thing, but just to be clear.
But people who warned about this kind of thing were said, oh, you're transphobic bigots. And it's ridiculous. There's clear incentives for somebody like this to transition. So as well as getting sent to a female prison where you can continue your offending, you also get given a new name. So anybody searching your name on Google or whatever, your crimes will be committed under an old name, so they'll be completely expunged from history. Yeah. So yeah, it's ridiculous.
What do you feel, Ben? I suspect you're probably slightly more.
I'm not as angry about it as you, because I suspect that these stories are being deliberately weaponised and shown more often than
these facts are deliberately happening.
But how many people do you think that is actually referring to? I mean, out of every 1,000 cases like this, how many?
Well, there's actually not that many. There's not that many transgender.
Every 1,000 rapists or every 1,000 trans rapists?
Every 1,000 rapists.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but
how many do you think are going to
transgender women are
transition?
Yes,
transgender. Yeah.
Transgender
well, I suspect
women.
There's going to be quite a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the beginning of a sort of tidal wave of.
Well, we were told, oh, this will never happen, and then it keeps happening. It keeps happening, and
it certainly keeps happening in the Daily Mail.
Now we're being told, but this is just a small amount. How many people has this got to? How many times has it got to happen before people are like, wait a minute, maybe this is bad?
This probably is bad, but I just
but
I suspect that it's being weaponised deliberately to set up
I just don't get this thing where, people, and I hear this a lot, any sort of right-wing point is shouted down because people say, oh, this is being weaponised. It's like, no, we're not trying to use it as a weapon. We're just pointing out the thing that we said would happen is now happening. And that's an actual fact. It's like the grooming gangs. People are like, oh, you're weaponising the grooming gang. No, we'd way rather it didn't happen. We want it to stop. We desperately want it to stop, but nobody in power will do anything about it because, the people this happening to are incredibly vulnerable and don't have a voice. The women in Cornvale prison don't have a voice.
All right. What would be your preferred response to this? To just say this is nonsense, sorry, you can't do it, or to have their own facility for trans rapists?
Fire them out of a cannon towards the Isle of Wight.
The next story, Ben, Guardian first, the rather delicate matter of in the workplace. As Dawson used to refer.
So this is about something called protected characteristic legislation. So they were going to. The proposal was that it could be made unlawful to discriminate against women who were going through the change, I suppose. And it's been decided that that can't happen because it could discriminate against men.
What it is essentially saying is that it would be again, potentially available to somebody to misuse. Is that the idea?
I think so. I mean, I've read it several times and I still don't really understand it.
It's not just me.
Yeah, I don't really understand it. I just wondered if maybe the legislation, maybe they didn't really understand it and they thought that it wouldn't be great to have less hot women in the workplace. I don't know. I mean, that's...
Yeah, maybe they read that sentence and they're like, we need more hot women in the workplace.
Yeah.
But the point is, I mean, just to try and understand it, the point is that women going through the menopause, which is maybe like 5 years or something, when you experience a lot of temperature flashes and so on. Fluctuations and mood swings and broken sleep the night before.
Yes.
It can be very disruptive to your ability to work. But if they were to say any woman experiencing the menopause can simply take time off work and you're not allowed to probe it, that's what the protected nature of this particular...
I think so, yeah.
It's something where you're not allowed to say, come on, let's see some evidence of this supposed menopause.
I want to see your sweaty brow.
Yeah.
She's just got too many jumpers on. Come on.
I suppose, and that's the point. They're saying that so men are going to be left sitting in the workplace without the support of the colleagues that they would be expected to work with. Is that the point?
Well, I think this is just the creep of sort of equality, diversity and inclusion into areas where it's not really needed. Nobody's firing women because they're going through the menopause. If anything, they're getting promoted because, you know, they're in the period of their life when they're probably the most productive at work. And I think, you know, everybody knows that, you know, sometimes women need to take a day off, sometimes men need to take a day off. We don't need to make a fuss about it or make some, you know, weird rule that can then be exploited.
Staying with women's troubles, we have in Wednesday's Mail, we're neck and neck with Kazakhstan and Kosovo when it comes to women's healthcare issues. Yeah. I suppose that's not good enough, though, is it? That's going to be the cry.
It's probably not good enough. So they've done a poll. I don't know how this poll is actually done, but women's healthcare in the UK is worse than in some countries with poor records on equality, including Saudi Arabia, Kazakhstan. I mean, we're genuinely worse than the country that gave us Borat.
Yeah.
So, you know, if Borat's wife is getting better medical attention, bear in mind she died in a field. So, but the UK scored just 60 out of 100. But given that this is a poll, I don't know if this is just people's perception of their healthcare.
Self-reported levels of satisfaction.
Because, if you're in Kazakhstan, you might think, oh, my God, I got an elastoplast off the government. This is amazing. This is such progress. Whereas, you know, over here, we want everything. MRIs, the lot.
Yeah. Women who suffered with pain needed to see a doctor 4.3 times on average before the cause was diagnosed. It doesn't say how many times men had to do so. It's kind of hard to see why that's a women's issue. I don't know. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, again, they're having a pop at us men, aren't they?
Well...
I mean, it's... I'm joking. I think this one's quite tricky. I don't know. How did they do the survey? Do we know?
I have no idea. It's simply asking women what their experience has been. Are they happy with it, I suppose? I'm not sure it's even necessarily paradoxical that Saudi Arabia, you know, might do well, because although it is patriarchal and misogynist, you know, they might very well look after their women in the same way that we look after our children. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean just because you don't allow them to run FTSE 100 companies.
So they stone them in the face, but then give them some Savlon.
Adequate hospitalisation.
They're always wrapped up very well anyway, that's for sure.
Not going to get sunburned.
Staying with the Mail, it sounds like one rather tiresome Swede has triggered exactly the reaction he was hoping for, Ben.
Yes, so this is... quite weird. Let me just remind myself what's happened here. So this guy in Sweden, actually, this is quite incredible. He applied for a permit to burn the Koran.
Right.
And then went ahead and burnt the Koran. And
he got the permit,
so, you know, he's gone, I've got my fishing licence, I've got my building certificate.
Yeah.
Last but not least, I've got my Koran burning licence.
And so this has triggered worldwide reprisals.
Well, it does, doesn't it? I mean, I think that's one of the reasons, the main reasons people burn Korans, isn't it? To get a little bit of...
A lot of jumping up and
Swedish
down.
flags, or at least they hope.
Yeah, that's not the Koran, that's the Swedish flag. Or isn't it? That's a tub of Lurpak.
They don't burn nearly as well. I did see one thing where he was chucking it around in a car park, the Quran. It did look extraordinarily petulant. But, I mean, I don't know these things. Does it matter? But Turkey is now threatening that it won't allow Sweden to join NATO.
Well, Sweden...
That does seem a bit off.
Sweden and Finland have been, basically implicitly okayed to join NATO, but Turkey's a NATO member and can veto it. And Turkey's now becoming... it's becoming more Islamic, but it's also a dictatorship under Erdogan. So he's got some beef with Sweden because they took in Kurdish refugees, I think. And obviously, he's been at war with the Kurds. Yes. Effectively, so yeah, there's beef between Sweden and Turkey now, and this hasn't helped at all. Now Turkey's saying they're going to block Sweden's attempt to join NATO.
To join NATO? That just sounds like that's wrong somehow to me. My gut feeling is that's wrong. That Turkey can stop Sweden joining NATO. I don't know why.
I think every member of NATO has to agree. I'm not totally sure, but I think every member has to
So
agree.
is that what this was designed for? Was this a deliberate
I don't think the tubby lad in the car park was attempting to keep Sweden out of NATO. I think he wants to demonstrate that Muslims are hotheads. I think he wants Sweden to be completely.
Well, I think Swedish Muslims could do something about this by printing the Quran on non-flammable paper.
Tea towels or something.
Make him look a fool.
Church news, Leo, to finish off this section. In the Telegraph, it's the battle of the Justins over gay sex. And I do not mean Justins as in the under-endowed, but there's big difference in that.
Oh, no, Justin is a word for somebody who's under-endowed.
It is.
I didn't know that. I've just learned something.
Justin.
Just
come on!
Wow!
Take his licence back.
That's amazing. So the Archbishop of Canterbury is risking the breakup of the Anglican Communion, which is a sort of worldwide extension of the Church of England, over gay marriage. There's been they recently had some sort of the synod had some sort of debate and a vote on whether they could allow gay marriage, and they voted to not allow it, but they can bless people once they've had their civil partnership. I don't know. It's all dead boring, and they're all probably gay anyway. But this is obviously the wider church. The communion, Anglican communion, that includes, a lot of countries with quite traditional values, quite, old-fashioned approaches
mainly.
to homosexuality and stuff. So they're saying, no way. And the ones in England are going, well, we have to, because we're not even a church anymore. We're just a woke organisation. Sorry, I said it again, Ben. But yeah, I don't know. People are saying, oh, it's mean and stupid. I think it's mean and stupid not to allow people to have gay marriages in churches, but religion isn't supposed to be nice or make sense.
No.
It's supposed to be
it's meant to be absurd.
We agree on that, yeah. The whole point of having a Bible is that it stops you doing certain things you want to do.
Yeah.
But hardline Christians...
one by one, they've been rolled back.
Yeah.
Hardline Christians have always said, it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. And you kind of think, but Adam and Steve probably wouldn't have got caught canoodling in the woods because they're much better at
Adam and Satan.
Not getting caught.
Steve and Satan.
And also, he would have been called Jeremiah, not Steve.
It's true. Steve's not a very biblical name.
Yeah.
No, it's true. That's it for part 2. In part 3, we've got OAP Gamers, the plot from Armageddon, and we found some food that the Scots won't deep fry. That's intriguing. We'll see you in a couple of seconds to find out why.
He's the king of breakfast TV, and he's back. Eamon Holmes, back on the TV with me this morning.
Even remember my name.
I know, it's been 4 months. You have holy water by your bed?
Oh, yes. Already to bless.
Yeah. Oh, Eamon. Oh.
Why do you not believe anything I say?
Eamon Holmes back on GB News Breakfast at 6 a.m.
Every weekend, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. Bigger and better, starting at 8 p.m. Friday and Saturday.
Can't be too safe. Bring it on. Has there ever been a more innuendo feature?
And Sundays, we're on at 9.
It's ridiculous. Just get on with it. Maybe you should get a proper job.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Click that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you.
She's only teasing. Go on.
He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Co. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's get straight into it now. Leo, no surprises here. Scots like to see the saltire on their food. Ideally, saltire and sauce, I would imagine.
Yeah, as you get in your chips in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they've done a poll, and Scots prefer to see the Scottish flag on their Scottish food products instead of the Union Jack. But this survey was done by The National, which isn't a reputable newspaper. It's not a real newspaper. This is the sort of an SNP propaganda rag. It's Scotland's answer to Pravda.
Okay.
It's completely in the pocket of the
And
SNP.
as far as the issue itself is concerned, is that really an option? I haven't even noticed that. Do we get food with Union Jacks on it in this country? Listen, Mowbray pork pies or something.
Yeah, no, you do. If you go and look at your pork and stuff, and actually in the UK, we've got really high standards of food welfare. So we're really nice to the animals, or marginally nicer to the animals before we slap them in the head with a brick or whatever.
So it is actually worth looking for that Union Jack, all saltire.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, compared to, apparently in America, they have 2 grades of beef below our grades that we'd use for dog food. And they can eat them. So in this country, you can actually eat dog food and still be eaten better than an American.
I mean, I must admit, I don't know. Ben, do you look for flags when you buy produce?
No.
But you're vegetarian anyway.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really matter. So you don't care how the tomatoes.
You don't get flags on a beetroot.
Well, you probably do. I don't know. Maybe we certainly get country of origin. But I have noticed some of the vegetables come from strange places. I don't know. Strange.
Well, they end up in strange
exotic
places. That's for sure.
That's true. Yeah, they're cycling through them. But anyway, so that's the point, is it? So you're having to understand whether the animal welfare issue is rather than the nationalistic determination to keep money within the economy.
Well, the National, as you can guess from they're Scottish nationalists. And, for some reason, the British National Party, British nationalists are seen as evil, and Scottish nationalists, they're so wonderful because they're fighting against England. I just don't get it. England's like the straight white man of countries. But yeah, the National isn't. It's not a paper. It's not a real thing.
You wait until we invade, it'll all kick off then. Then, trivialising dietary challenges now. We continue, always a favourite with the papers. Apparently, all we need to do is give up 3 biscuits a day to turn this country around.
Yes,
perhaps turn it around in a tight alley. But, yes.
Another bit of breakthrough research has discovered that if we eat a bit less, we'll gain less weight. I don't know why we didn't work this out before.
No, but it's 3 biscuits specifically, right?
Well, the charity Nesta says it's the snacking that we do, right? And a lot of the snacking that we do, they've worked out roughly adds up to about 216 calories. So a couple of biscuits or a glass of wine.
Large glass of wine, 2 biscuits, and a scoop of ice cream.
Yeah. I mean, my problem is when I have a glass of wine, I really like a snack with it.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a double whammy.
And then once you've had the snack, you need something to wash that down with, don't you?
Well, exactly.
Another glass of wine, and so it goes.
A Malbec with some Bombay mix.
I'm actually kind of fat at the moment for me. But yeah, if you work out, then you're burning more calories, and also you don't get as hungry. And also, something that I've noticed people do is they eat when they're not hungry. If you just wait until you're hungry, it seems simple, but so many people eat because they're bored. Because they want the taste of it. So just wait till you're hungry.
I have a theory about it. I mean, there are loads of theories about obesity. The most interesting map I've ever seen is the one against the water table in America. Obesity maps so closely to altitude, it's unbelievable. Like how low you live, the more obese. Right down in New Orleans, where they're actually like below sea level, we're behind the dikes, is the most obese, and up in Colorado the least. It's so accurate, even at county level, let alone state.
Is that because you've got to walk all the way up those steps
Nobody
to get
really
home?
knows. It might be something to do with actually literally walking up hills, but it might equally be to do with chemicals getting stuck in the water table and much less so when it's higher up. But anyway, of all the things that I think it might easily be, I think we are eating when we're bored. We are, as a nation, as a civilization, becoming... is a pandemic of ADHD-type behaviour. I'm not minimising actual ADHD. It's not like OCD or whatever. But do you know what I mean? Like, you're just distracted all the time and you're just, with a smartphone. this is what it is. We're just like constantly eating little snacky things in the same way that you flick through your phone.
And also our media and our culture glorifies obesity. You know, we've got all these plus-size models and everybody's like, oh, you can be healthy at any size. It's like, you can't. You can only be healthy if you're not that fat.
There's got to be some sort of happy medium between not fat shaming and
a happy medium is actually, instead of a plus-size model, we need a happy medium.
XXXL. Mail now, and we'll remember Gamergate, but now we have OAGs, apparently, old age gamers, Leo.
So new research has shown that 85% of people over 65 play video games at least once a week.
That's incredible.
36% of them play every day. So apparently this started during the COVID-19 lockdowns.
Right.
Because computer games, they're not just, it's not just something that takes away your boredom now, it's something that's social. So you can stay in touch with your family, younger members of your family, you can stay in touch with your friends, you can talk to them over the headset while you're shooting each other in the head of in Call of Duty.
And some of these people have got actual military experience as well, of course, over 65.
Although when I used that about 10 years ago, I was playing Call of Duty and I got the headset so I could actually speak to people. I'd assumed everybody's shooting me because I was always getting destroyed. I assumed that, they must all just be back from Afghanistan or whatever. No, it was all like 9-year-old girls and stuff. But yeah, studies have shown that games can boost the brain power of the elderly and stave off dementia. Oh yeah, that Candy Crush is really saving you. Really saving you.
I think we should create
as well as an excuse, don't you? Just the idea that you're doing things to stop yourself getting dementia. But sorry, go on.
So I was going to say, I think we should create more video games specifically aimed at pensioners. So, you know, exclusively on Xbox Post Office Q.
I was going to say Pension Collection.
Mario Mobility Scooter. Grandpa Theft Auto.
Very good.
Wii Sports.
As in, like, incontinence Wii.
Well, if you're going
to... Slightly changed, I'm going to say.
World of Warcraft. There's loads of them.
Very nice, yeah. And maybe you could have some virtual grandkids that pop round to see you occasionally as well.
Oh, that would be nice.
Wouldn't it?
That would be nice.
But that apparently is what they do, right? They don't just team up with other pensioners. They do meet their grandchildren in... Because that's my son during lockdown. I'm sure a lot of them, they do go on these places and they meet their mates. You know, Minecraft is not necessarily a war zone. Some of it is more like a playground where they just hang out.
It's very creative, Minecraft, isn't it?
Yeah. They get your little headset. Well, that would be a nice
children just want to be back down the mines. That's what that's all about. But apparently terrorist cells were using World of Warcraft to meet and discuss things as well.
We had that one last night. Yeah, very sinister. Well, I suppose if they start recruiting OAPs, that will certainly boost their mental capacity. You'll be on their toes. Talking of video games, this next story from The Times will not be news to anyone who grew up playing Asteroid in the 80s, Ben.
Oh, right, yes, this is the idea that if the worst should happen, as it has in many great films, a huge asteroid is seen to be sort of coming at us, that we might be able to blow up a sort of nuclear bomb near it and sort of push it away.
Because apparently this is the what look like asteroids from a distance are actually just loose sort of piles. They're like rubble. They're held together by nothing more than gravity.
Well, loose piles can be a really bad problem, as we know.
You don't want to go for the nuclear option every time.
But wouldn't it be great, though? Wouldn't it be ironic if a nuclear bomb ended up saving the world? I mean, that's not what we were expecting.
That could be an outcome. Were you aware of this? These things are more like clusters.
Yeah, well, because, you can see the trail of comets, and, I mean, some of them, they can land things on, but other ones, you know, they're not solid. Saturn's rings as well, you know, just a cluster of rocks as well. But, yeah, I mean, this isn't really news. This is what we've been told in every film about an asteroid heading towards the Earth. I'm just worried if we do it in real... What if it makes the asteroid angrier?
Well, that's possible. It's the aspect that is news is not so much that we could blow it up with a... I mean, yes, Bruce Willis did that all those years ago. It's that they may already be just fractures, that you just have to sort of, you know, explode near them and they will disperse.
Right. Yeah.
That they're not quite as... To be honest, most heavenly bodies are not all that, really. You know, I know that Britain, the Earth has got a bit of I think a little bit of a...
superiority complex.
Well, the inferiority is that's the word. Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, we're concerned that Jupiter is massive, and they're all just gas. You know, these asteroids are flinging around. They think we're going to do damage. No, it's just they're dust.
We're definitely one of the best, aren't we?
Absolutely,
we are one of the best.
We have the best smear. Leo of life, you know, on the surface. Staying with the times and one of the many new technologies that I personally feel breathing uncomfortably close over my shoulder. This is the capacity of technology to talk and write and stuff.
Yeah, so Microsoft has invested $10 billion in OpenAI, which is behind ChatGPT, which I don't know if you've used it. I've just used it to, basically you type anything in and it'll create it it can create an essay, it can do research, it can write, advertising copy, it can also create images.
Education is
Daily Mail headlines.
Yeah.
It can weaponize trans rapists, can't it, Ben?
Yeah. Although Microsoft is going to integrate the technology into its Bing search engine, so it'll disappear without trace.
Bing. Is that still going?
It's still going.
Nobody bings.
Yeah.
Do they? Have you ever
I went on Google the other day and searched for it, and it's still there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. I am quite.
Is that like Ask Jeeves?
Yeah.
Okay.
And DuckDuckGo, which is just what you do if you don't want anyone to know where you've gone.
Oh.
That's anonymous. But
I've got to say, I've used ChatGPT quite a lot, and it looks very convincing. The stuff it writes looks very convincing, but it's like, me turning up to a job interview. Sounds convincing, actually just talking nonsense. Because I asked it, why did Robert Burns support Scottish independence? And it gave me all these reasons. And then, it's
Robert Burns.
Robert Burns.
The poet.
The poet, yeah. And it said, yes, he supported it and gave me all these reasons. Then I said, did Robert Burns support the union between England and Scotland? It said, yes, he supported the union.
Yeah.
Give me all these reasons. So.
Well, that's actually pretty intelligent, isn't it? I mean, that's the kind of behaviour that will actually get you the job.
Yeah.
If you could install chatbot in your brain and just have a little feeds. The worry is that students are going to use this to answer essay questions.
They already are.
Yeah. Well, do you think there's a room for it in stand-up comedy, Ben?
I don't think so. I mean, I think I saw a story a couple of days ago that they managed to get it to write a Nick Cave song.
Oh, wow.
In the style of Nick Cave, and Nick Cave got really upset. Because even though to you and I, you read the one by side the other one, you think, I don't know which one isn't Nick Cave, but he knew, and he was really miffed.
Some years ago, maybe 10 years ago, there was a competition in Australia, the Sydney Opera House, and the audiences went along and heard 3 pieces of music, one of which was by a modern composer, one was a lesser-known piece by J.S. Bach, obviously one of the great composers, and one had been written by an artificial intelligence program. And then they were just asked to rank them, which was your favourite, and the artificial intelligence came first.
Right.
And Bach came second, and the modern composer was a distant third.
Right,
but
wow.
obviously, people just didn't get him. Anyway, let's go to a quick break now. Join us for the final section in a moment with witches, whale meat vending machines, and why we're a nation of Sherlock Holmes at home. We'll see you in a moment. I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, Andrew Pierce here. Join me every Friday lunchtime for a proper no-nonsense debrief of the week's events. With special guests in the studio and the GB News team on the ground, I'll be getting you up to date with news, some intelligent discussion, and my own sharp take. The weekend starts here with me every Friday lunchtime on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to the final part of Headliners, where we finally get into some silliness. Ben, delusion news now. Armchair detectives are convinced their experience watching Nordic noir and Yorkshire gore could have real-world application.
Yeah, this is great. It says 1 in 3 Brits think they could solve real-life murder thanks to watching crime TV.
That is the intention of crime TV, isn't it? It's to flatter you.
Absolutely. And one of the things that caught my eye, they said, when considering how a killer gives themselves away, 25% believe accidentally leaving DNA at the scene is most likely to be their undoing, and also being found with a souvenir from a victim's body. That's Mr. Ben, isn't it? He always used to come back with a souvenir.
With a souvenir, yeah. I suppose the word souvenir is a bit of a throw there, isn't it? But possibly some sort of I mean, something they may have nicked.
Yeah.
You know, just
That'd be a very different Mr. Ben episode, standing at the end of Festive Road. Oh, look, a bloody lock knife.
Yeah, or a finger with a ring still on it or something like that. But I don't know. I have no idea. This is the thing. We all talk about these things as if we go, well, it's not realistic or it is realistic. I assume people who write TV dramas do actually do a bit of research. Maybe these things are.
Well, as a former criminal intelligence analyst...
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got no idea if it's realistic or not either. But, I mean, I do know... I mean, I got training from, like, Professor David Cantor, who did the Dragnet, created the Dragnet software and the mapping that caught the Soho nail bomber.
OK.
So there's a lot more sort of geospatial analysis and, you know, and also temporal analysis and stuff like that. And when you're victim profiling, you know, you're doing the gender, ethnicity, all that kind of stuff, the age, and you can really, you know, narrow it down to a small subset based on, you know, even very little information.
Yeah.
But the whole, I mean, I'd never did anything around actual sort of, you know, crime scenes.
Well, the question is, I suppose, how much technology is used nowadays. I remember when this was the show called Spooks a few years ago, it was kind of hard to see exactly, but it was somewhere between MI5 and CID or whatever, you know, it's like Interpol kind of thing. But they seemed to have cameras everywhere. The implication was that they could follow somebody up, not just up the road, but through buildings, through shops, or all the CCTV was interlocked.
I think they can do that now.
If they can do that, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, but you wouldn't... That was the sort of thing, it felt almost like it was James Bond adjacent, but actually it was probably quite accurate in a way.
Do you know what? You can follow them all the way home and then get the Chinese involved and see them opening their fridge.
You know, hello! Over to Bramshaw in Hampshire now, where a different kind of crime. Someone has run a dead cat up a flagpole to see if anyone salutes. Might be Satanism, might just be a mixed metaphor.
Yeah, so a gruesome find, an ancient church fuels witchcraft fear. So this is a headline from like the 1700s.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Or Dennis Wheatley.
So so a cat was found hanging by congregation members. That's people. It wasn't actually. They're not that cruel. Yeah. And also there's a dead fox on the doorstep of the church. I'm starting to wonder if this is actually just someone's pet cat who's bringing things to leave on the doorstep. That's what cats seem to do. But yeah, people are worried that
it would be a very clever cat to get it up a flagpole, though.
Get itself up there and hang itself.
If any animal
Maybe
could do
it's
it.
just so sad about what it had done to the fox. Fox reprisal. I don't know.
Yeah, we're seeing with the void that Christianity and morality has left in Western culture. We're seeing more of this Satanism and witchcraft.
Well, it's probably actually. I mean, these things are very often false flag. It might very easily be somebody who is.
No, it's a cat.
Is it a false flag? That's a hell of a false flag, isn't it? As they go, a cat, not just.
This isn't a flag at all.
But it could be from people who are against gay marriage, for instance. It could be from people who identify as sterner Christians than the Christians who are running the church. Do you know what I mean? So they're using these kind of ways to demonstrate that God is angry with them.
Oh, really?
I think it's more likely that than Satanism. I don't know. What do you think?
Could be God himself.
It could be God himself.
Or
do you have a view on
themselves.
this one?
Yes.
Go on.
No, not really. You've covered it.
Covered it. I do miss the Dennis Wheatley Ride Out, Devil Rides Out. Remember that? And a nice pentagram and a big Gothic house and a bit of crunchy.
We used to be great at those kinds of films, didn't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Always,
God, we should get
somebody
back
would
into
end
those.
up being
World's
sacrificed.
best-selling author in his time. I'm sure that could all come back, and it could start here. The Guardian now. Protesters are angry that Japan are celebrating Dame Vera Lynn with some new vending machines, Ben.
Yes, campaigners criticised Japan firms selling whale meat from vending machines.
Nasty.
It's weird. I think what's happened is, from what I gather, there's been a massive decline in the consumption of whale meat in Japan, whereas it used to be quite a traditional thing. The younger people are less interested, and so the people behind the whole whale meat industry and some kind of conservative politicians as well are trying to boost interest in whale meat. So they're putting these vending machines all over the country. And people, I'm not sure it's been that succecessful because people aren't expecting to find whale meat in a vending machine in Japan. They're expecting to find used ladies' underwear.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, they're going to open. They've opened a third store already, and they're going to have machines operating in 100 locations. And whale meat is actually much more ethical. It's the most ethical meat, because whales are so big, you only need to kill one of them for loads of people. If you kill a chicken, you got to kill like a chicken for every 2 people.
Whales are missed by their children in a way that chickens aren't.
How do you know that?
Mail. Well,
you don't know that. You can't talk to a chicken.
You can hear their song. It's all there. Over to the Mail. It sounds like they've discovered one of my marital revenge strategies, Leo.
So a dentist reveals your toothbrush may be covered in poop particles because he came round to your house and put it in his bottom. No, this dentist from Florida, he's on TikTok, contributing to the degeneracy and collapse of the West. He says lots of toothbrushes are covered in tiny bits of fecal matter. Apparently, the problem is aerosols. So these particles come out of our aerosols and go onto our...
And they bounce off the toilet, go straight into your toothbrush. Is this an internet-enabled toothbrush that's feeding this information back to China?
Well, it fed it to the Daily Mail.
It certainly has. What do you do with your toothbrush, Ben? Have you got it like upside down into a mug of water, keep it clean?
I've not heard of that technique.
What? Wouldn't the water just get manky?
Yeah, I suppose so. But I don't know. But you've got to keep it away. If you can see, he says, if you can see both the toilet and the toothbrush at the same time, the chances are that it's contaminated.
So I think I'm going to move my toothbrush a little bit further away.
Yeah.
Because I had it slightly too close.
Well, you could always do it while you're sitting on the loo, of course. That's one way to save time, isn't it?
What, clean your teeth?
Yeah, that's that sort of Jack Lemmon company man, you know, making sure he gets to the office on time sort of movie scenario. Do you remember those? And the beds that flip back up?
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember watching Jack Lemmon having a dump in a movie.
There's definitely one. Anyway, last one is the new TV show, which is becoming extraordinarily successful and popular and a big conversation point, Ben. It's the science behind the fungal apocalypse. Now we haven't got much room left to talk about this. But go.
So it says, could The Last of Us actually happen? Science behind cordyceps fungus at root of TV show's pandemic. So this is the idea that maybe one day a parasitic fungus might infect us, take us over and turn the whole human population into zombies. And then you think, it may have already happened.
It may already have
The Tories have been in power since 2010.
But these funguses, they really do exist, right? They are there's the ants and so on that get impacted by this. All they've done is scale it up. There are funguses that get into ants' brains, mess with their self. Their free will.
Yeah.
I don't know to what extent ants have free will to begin with.
And turn them
into... you said chickens. It's all right to eat chickens a moment ago.
Yeah.
They don't feel any pain or whatever. Their children don't miss...
It could happen to chickens?
The ants, they climb to the top of a tree. The fungus makes them climb to the top of a tree and then bite onto a leaf, and then the fungus sprouts so it can spread its spores as far as possible.
It was on a David Attenborough documentary. You're going to see it on YouTube. It is absolutely terrifying. This ant is it's in like stop frame or whatever you call it, like sped up. Like, just plants just start bursting out of its head, out of its eye sockets and stuff. It's really disturbing.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what this TV show is about, but I think it's something like that.
As a vegetarian, that would be a really ironic end for me.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
plants started just coming out of me.
You love plants. Now you're full of one. So that is all for tonight's show, but let's quickly take another look at Wednesday's front pages. The Daily Mail kicked off with 2.5 trillion reasons the UK must go for growth. I would imagine those reasons are sterling. The Telegraph has hammer blow for Putin as Ukraine gets tanks. The Guardian, same story. Berlin agrees to send tanks to Ukraine in historic move. The Times economy is failing to bounce back fast enough. Urgent measures are required. The Daily Star. Is there a Chinese spy in your fridge or indeed your internet-enabled toothbrush? That is it for this evening. Thanks to my brilliant guests, Leo Kearse and Ben Norris. Take a bow, gentlemen. Headliners is back tomorrow at 11 with Andrew Doyle, Josh Howie, and Black Book's Father Ted and IT creator Graham Linehan. Very exciting. If you're watching this at 5 a.m, stay tuned for The Breakfast Show coming next.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance.
Now we're here to represent you.
Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even some ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me! And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. There's never been a more interesting but also critical time in British politics, and I can't wait to bring you the biggest stories of the day with the best factual accuracy and also a few of my own opinions thrown in. We'll engage in passionate but always polite debate with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12 on TV, on radio and online.
Today, a major speech by the Shadow Foreign Secretary David Lammy, in which he says he wants to reconnect with Europe. Given growing public disenchantment with the Tories' delivery of Brexit, is the whole project in trouble? We'll debate that. Boris Johnson in Ukraine, but now calling for Ukraine to join NATO. Is that a good idea? Or could it put us on a collision course? Or perhaps even be at war with Russia ourselves? And joining me on Talking Pints, long-time Guardian columnist, fervent anti-Brexiteer, I'll be talking to Polly Toynbee. But before all of that, let's get the news with Polly Middlehurst.
Nigel, thank you. Good evening to you. A relative of the murder victim, Zara Alina, says probation officers have blood on their hands after a report found her killer was released from prison just days before carrying out the attack. Jordan McSweeney was given a life sentence last month after he admitted killing the law graduate. He attacked 35-year-old Zara in East London as she walked home after a night out last June. The findings show McSweeney should have been treated as a high risk of serious harm offender, but was wrongly graded as a medium risk. Zara's aunt, Farah Naz, says more needs to be done to avoid the same thing happening again.
Our streets are not safe. Probation work has to be tight, has to be high quality, because the risks, the stake is high. The stake is lives. Zara's life was taken, and probation have blood on their hands.
Well, in other news today, the chairman of the BBC says he won't stand down from his role over the Boris Johnson loan row. Richard Sharp made the comments as he welcomed a review by the Commissioner of Public Appointments into how he got his job. Mr Sharp's under scrutiny over his links to the former Prime Minister and his role in talks over an £800,000 loan. Speaking to the BBC, Mr Sharp said he was confident he'd been appointed on merit. And in Scotland, the firefighter who was seriously hurt in a blaze at the Jenner's department store in the centre of Edinburgh yesterday has been named. 38-year-old Barry Martin joined dozens of other crew members to tackle the flames, which broke out on Rose Street at about 11:30 a.m. He's still in hospital this evening in a critical condition. The Scottish Fire and Rescue Service saying they're still trying to work out how the fire started. Poland has formally requested Germany's approval to send up to 14 Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine. The Polish Defence Minister says the request comes as the security of the whole of Europe is at stake. A German government spokesperson said they'd treat the request with utmost urgency. And it comes after Boris Johnson urged other countries to follow the UK's lead in providing tanks. Writing in today's Daily Mail, the former Prime Minister called on other nations to provide Kyiv with the weapons it needs to win the war. And lastly, Princess Eugenie says she and her husband Jack Brooksbank are so excited to be expecting their second child. A photograph released on Instagram today by the princess shows the couple's first child, August, hugging his mum's pregnant tummy. In a statement, the palace said the royal family is delighted and August is very much looking forward to being a big brother. Those are the latest news stories on GB News. You are up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. Back now to Farash.
Yeah, I can do it for a second.
Good evening. Well, today, a major speech by David Lammy, the Shadow Foreign Secretary. He delivered it at lunchtime at Chatham House. Here's a flavour of what he had to say.
Reconnecting Britain to Europe while remaining outside of the European Union will be our top priority for the next Labour Foreign Office. Keir Starmer has been clear. With Labour, Britain will not rejoin the European Union, the single market or the customs union.
So that's David Lammy. The big message is we will not be rejoining the single market. We will not be rejoining the European Union. Well, of course, he had to say that. The Red Wall, after all, would not want to hear any different. But just for a moment, folks, if you don't know who David Lammy is, he is an absolutely fanatical EU rejoiner. And he even, believe it or not, compared the ERG, the European Research Group, that backbench group of Eurosceptics in the Conservative Party, he even compared them to Nazis. And when he was challenged on it, he said that term possibly wasn't strong enough. But the language is pretty clear. He wants to reconnect with Europe. He says, never again must we be isolated in our own continent.